My name is Hannah Hashim. I am the founder and owner of GoLingua, and I have been teaching now for over 25 years. English is my passion, really, and I have been teaching for many years. A lot of the time in the UK, and I also lived in the Middle East, in Bahrain, where I was teaching there as well. Our co-host, Dr. Robert Babak, he's a doctor and he has been teaching IELTS and OET for many years as well. He's the one that is going to run our webinar today, as he has got the extensive knowledge of the subject, and he has got a lot of tips and techniques that we will be able to share with you during the webinar today and the following webinars. Now, just a little bit more about the company. OET, as you know, is a trademark and is an organization that you're going to book your exams through. And also they offer training, and Robert has completed his preliminary providers training, and I am in the process of doing so. So I just wanted you to know that we are properly trained and stamped from the OET organization. So our knowledge is up to date, and that's what we strive to share with you, up-to-date knowledge. Because we know that unfortunately these days there are many places out there where people claim they know something, yet they don't. So I wanted you to know that I'm just checking the waiting room. I wanted you to know that we are the real deal. We do have the knowledge, and we have been checked, and our knowledge is up to date. Now, and I just wanted to share with you a few testimonials that Dr. Babak has received over the years from the students he has been teaching. As you can see, Nati, she's saying that he's an amazing teacher, and Annie, Annette again. So, and he has helped many people to pass the OET and IELTS exam. And there is another one here from Dea. She has been so excited about her results that she's going to create some videos about it to share on the YouTube. So I just wanted to, for you to have a look at, to see that we do know what we are talking about. Now, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Babak now for him to introduce himself in more details and share his experience firsthand. Dr. Babak, over to you.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Right. So basically, I mean, as you said, we're going to talk about three important points, and just as a very brief introduction, I'm a medical doctor, also teaching English. I've been teaching English since 1988, and I've been a GP trainer as well. I'm a medical doctor, member of Royal College of General Practitioners, and I also have a CELTA degree for teaching English as a second language. Also, yes, a preliminary provider for the OET. Right. The reason we have prepared this webinar today is that we get a lot of candidates who are referred to us because they have failed the writing part of the examination. And it might be a big question for a lot of people. Why am I failing? What am I doing wrong? And these are the three most important reasons for not being able to score enough in the writing exam. Um, so we thought that we could share this with you, and then hopefully you can do better in your future examinations. Well, the most common mistake which people make, the candidates who are doing the exam, is that they forget to read about the new writing criteria or the scoring, the marking criteria. Well, it might be common sense or it might be obvious, but many people actually don't look at the marking criteria when they're sitting for an exam. So in your medical field or in your profession, you obviously know what to read or what to study because it's everything in medicine. But here, yeah, language is a very wide area. It's the scope is so wide. So you need to know what you're expected to do or what part of the language you're going to be checked for. And here it is. So basically, to approach any examination, the best thing is, the first thing is actually looking at the skills that are measured, okay? The criteria for writing have changed since 31st of August 2019. So basically, this is the new criteria, which is purpose, um, which is on a scale of 0 to 3, but the rest are the 5 other ones from 0 to 7. Content, conciseness and clarity, genre and style, organization and layout, and language. And as you can see, language is a very small part. So because occupational English test is focusing on the occupational part of the language more than the language itself.
Excuse me, Robert, are you sharing your screen with us?
Am I not?
No.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. How's that?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. So shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay. Right. So basically, yeah, that is the first and the biggest. Are you going to deal with those?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So the biggest mistake is actually not checking the marking criteria. So Right. Basically, yeah, these are a few facts. Marking criteria are used in any test, and in order for you to show specific skills. Even if you do have the skills, if you do not demonstrate them, you will not get the mark. So that is um, very important. You might be very good at English, but you might not get on well on a specific test. Um, People sit for the test in different times, and they score differently because their performance has been different. So it doesn't mean that the test is not valid. It's not necessarily any problem with the test. It's actually probably with your uh, performance. Having said that, the tests are supposed to have some margin of error, but not too much. So basically, you cannot mark, let's say, 150 in one exam and then 350 a month later. So one of these results are wrong. Remember, if you demonstrate some of the skills that you have or that are required, you will only get some of the mark, which is relevant to those skills you have shown. If you know all these criteria, or if you do not or cannot demonstrate you have used these skills, you will not get the mark for them. And even if your English is excellent, or if you're a native speaker, you still need to demonstrate these skills. Your knowledge is not measured here, your performance is. We do have candidates who have studied in a non-English speaking country, but they are actually native speakers. Their mother tongue is English, but they sometimes don't perform very well. Okay. In simple words, um, OET is like a driving test. Your performance is checked. The knowledge is required, but is not enough. Okay. So something else I just wanted to mention here, which I think is relevant, is basically um, how you perform in the examination is actually very relevant to how you feel at the time. And well, you need to feel confident when you're going for the test. So if you know the criteria, it means that you are in control. It means that you know what you're doing. So this gives you confidence. So make sure to actually know the new marking criteria. Another important point, which is relevant to new marking criteria, is that uh, there are some papers and notebooks and books, samples, God forbid, a 400-page sample or pamphlet, which is shared by everyone, and almost everyone has studied that before doing the test or coming to me. Well, with all due respect, there's been a lot of energy to prepare that, and I understand that. But basically, that is not updated. It is based on the previous criteria of writing. Therefore, if you study that, you probably wouldn't score high enough because the focus of the criteria is a different criteria. Okay. We will discuss this later. Right. Yeah, I just thought this is very good. This is relevant. How is OET named? Well, I don't want to go into the history, but basically OET is Occupational English Test. and it is named after its target skills. Okay, so there's so much emphasis on the occupational element of this test. So this test is different for doctors, for nurses, for dentists, for vets, for different health professionals. And that is why the reading and listening is shared among all the professions. But speaking and writing sections are specifically designed for the specific profession. Okay. Um, this test requires a good general knowledge of English. So you need to be at the level of upper intermediate or advanced, which is an IELTS of 7, at least 6.5. So it's a B1 level in European system. So that is required for this test. Um, Besides the knowledge, you need to demonstrate the skills that are required. Um, Here, just in brackets, some people look for templates and they try to make templates in their mind. And that is what we don't want, because using a template actually uh, undermines these skills. So when you're trying to use templates, it means that you cannot actually uh, work around these. It means that you're not using these skills. You're not demonstrating these skills. Therefore, using templates is highly discouraged. Okay. Um, so, yep, the most important point in OET writing is that there's more focus on the content of the letter than on the language. So if you remember, I showed you earlier here, there is one part or one criterion, which is language. The others is actually what the content is and how it is prepared, okay? How it is selected and prepared and presented. So um, basically, yes, language is important, but the content is more important. Language is, I mean, the grammar, spelling, vocabulary, capital, punctuation, right. Yes, they're important, but they're just 90 marks out of 500. Okay. The task is basically extracting the relevant content, um, reflecting it accurately. This is very important. You do the job, you extract the relevant information, but you write it wrongly. So you lose your mark. So extracting the relevant content, reflecting it accurately, summarizing it effectively and efficiently, organizing it, organize the information, the content that you're going to present logically, and then represent it with a proper language. And that is the key to delivering a desirable letter. Of course, what comes before all of these is to find the purpose of the letter. So if you get the purpose wrong, everything will be wrong and nothing would be right in the letter. So basically, if you're supposed to write a discharge letter, but you write a referral letter, you say, I'm writing to refer this person, and actually you're discharging the person. Or if you're referring because the patient is being discharged from your service and you're referring to another service, you need to clarify that. And you need to clarify that in your own mind as well, because then all the content depends on that. Okay, so yeah, so the last criterion was language, but I admit using the proper language, which is the objective and factual language, is also relevant to language knowledge, obviously. Or the genre and the way we write, yes, that is basically language. I'm not saying that it's only 90 marks, but it is much less than other examinations. And so basically the language part of the exam, I would say roughly it is probably 150 to 200 marks out of 500. And at least 300 to 350 is um, relevant to the uh, other skills that you need to demonstrate. Right. Well, okay. So, well, the second part of the second part of our uh, webinar today is about the content, which is, I think I covered that. Sorry, the third part is about handover, document genre, and organization. Just to remind you, we're talking about the main reasons why we don't mark enough in OET writing. The first one was that we don't pay attention to marking criteria, the new criteria. The second one was that we focus too much on grammar and language, but actually the focus is more on content, how it is summarized, presented, organized. And the third one is handover, document, genre, and organization. Okay, so what is this? I mean, what does OET mean by handover, document, genre, and handover, document, organization? Well, yeah. So usually the language that is used in handovers is different from essay writing. It's different from academic writing. I mean, when you read a book, you see a different style. If you read a newspaper, you see a different language. So basically, the language is, which is used in handover document is different. And well, uh, when professionals are handing over, they use simple language rather than complex structure. And just interestingly, a lot of the professionals are not native speakers. Therefore, they need to make sure they actually can communicate effectively, and they can actually not make any mistakes. So everything needs to be clear, simple and clear. Not long ago, there was a campaign for plain English. Basically, everybody was requesting the websites, newspapers, or everywhere to use plain English so all the people can understand it, because that is what language is for. Okay, so basically the language is handover document is simpler. It's not very complex. Okay, in handover document organization, what is different? Well, you obviously are familiar with history taking and physical examination. That's what you have been doing during your studies. Um, um, History and physical examination, when you're clerking a patient, basically is like a legal document that you have to record everything. So you have to record everything as a sort of legal document. But in handover, it's not the case. In handover, you're just trying to be concise. You're trying to be focused on a specific task. Okay. So yeah. So the difference is we need to organize the letter in a way uh, that our audience can understand quickly what we're doing, basically. So um, I'll give you an example, which is like um, a general conversation with a friend, for example. You see a friend, and before this coronavirus pandemic, you shook hands, and so we call that handshaking. So basically, you greet each other, you start to talk, okay, and then after that, what comes after? You say hello. Uh, More information, okay, and you ask information. You ask the other person or your friend how they are, what they're doing, and so on. The same thing happens here. What you say after you said the purpose, you say that, okay, I'm writing to make a referral. What you say after that, and that is the most important part. That and the most important part of your purpose needs to be said here, basically. Um, a lot of people say, well, why don't we just stick to the same to same order and same consequence of history taking, like saying that, well, this is chief complaint, this is past medical history, family history, drug history, allergies, stuff like that. Then maybe a review of systems of physical exam, and so on. Well, we don't have that much time. We don't have that much space. It's basically like presenting a patient in 2 minutes. So 180 to 200 words. So you're not supposed to mention everything, but only the relevant stuff. So a handover document needs to be organized. And how do we organize that? We need to classify. Um, Basically, the most important information comes first because that is relevant. And then the next part would be some information which is less important or less relevant. And finally, some information which is just good to know. And yeah, and in the end, to reiterate or to emphasize what the request is. I mean, what was the purpose at the beginning, and in the last part of the letter, you say exactly what you're expecting. Okay, and well, if you search handover document or handover format in, let's say, Google, you can see a lot of information on handover. It has been widely studied. It is there is a lot of um, uh, there's a lot of evidence around effective handover and effective communication and systematic handover. So basically, we're not saying stick to those. We're not saying use the same criteria or the same systems. Just to familiarize yourself with different handover systems. And yeah, I recommend you have a look at those. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hand over to Hannah, and then well, we can answer your questions if you have any. And I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I hope to see you again. So I hand over to Hannah now. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Babak. Has anybody got any questions so far? I haven't seen anything in the chat box. If Right, you can actually unmute yourselves if you have a question or raise your hand. Yes, so the main takeaway from this, I think you need to remember that when you do the writing test, is really to be clear and concise. I'm not sure how many of you here have already attempted the test. Can I just have hands up to say who has already done the test? Could you share with us? You can raise your hand or so Elmira, okay, and let me just find you. Any Dr. Babak, do you suggest any book or reference for dentists? You need to unmute, okay. I can't hear you, Dr. Babak.
Oh, sorry. Yes, there are some books available for dentistry. I personally haven't seen the books, but there are available for all the professions. In terms of reading and listening, obviously they're the same for all professions, but for speaking and writing, I think you need to search and go around and basically, yes, there are sample tests and practice tests which are prepared.
Elmira, you are just unmuted. Would you like to ask? I'm sorry to put you up on the spot, but would you like to ask the question? So can I ask you to share with me your experience with the with your OET test, and what was the difficulty that you experienced? Elmira, you are unmuted now. Can you hear us? We can't hear you, unfortunately.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, hi, everyone.
Hi.
Before your comments, thank you. Well, after the exam, I thought that I do my writing test very well. And actually, I thought that I would pass it. But when the scores came back, I kind of failed. I think I forgot to mention some important object in the writing, and actually I missed some items. I forgot to mention history of surgery, which may be important for the case. Well, I think that was my mistake, and my score kind of down.
And okay, and thank you for sharing. And what about the other parts of the exam? Did you pass those?
Yeah, just the speaking part. And I kind of ran out of time and I couldn't finish my task because I tried to speak a lot about the symptoms and taking history, and I couldn't finish the task and kind of missed the task.
So you would need support with speaking as well. So you make sure that you are covering all the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the writing and the speaking. Yes, I think many candidates issue that they have is they don't know what is relevant, what is important. You're trying to overdo it by adding too many details, and when it comes to it, you really need to be selective what you feel as well. You are a professional. Remember, that test is doctor talking to a doctor, okay? Don't overthink it. It's really that simple. Imagine you're talking to another uh, another doctor and you think, what is the key issue here that this other person needs to know to treat that patient? Would you agree with me, Dr. Babak? That this is really that simple. It's really using your experience in your own homeland country and relate it to in English. That's all it is. I think people just overthink it that way, that, oh, what am I need to add and all this and the other. Well, it is not. Really, use the experience that you have from so far and think, does this piece of information add anything to the way I'm going to treat that patient? Or does this person need to know? Or who needs to know that? It's also remember who is your audience. Is it a doctor to a doctor to a nurse, a doctor to a physio? So I'm sure that when you were training as doctors, this information was related to you. Am I right? Could you say yes and no? During your medical training, when your medical training is what, 5, 6, 7 years? I'm sure that you must have had sessions with your senior doctors, who said to you how much information you need to relate to the other person and who you need to say it to. Did you have in sessions like this during your training?
Yeah, I can say there's yes, in ward rounds, for example, or in morning reports. So when you admit a patient, the next day you have to report your patient. You have to introduce it to the consultants. Or in ward rounds, when you see a patient, then you need to basically, yes, you need to. It's like a handover, basically. If it's like introduction. So we don't always go through the whole history and physical examination, but instead actually just look at the improvements or the progress, and then yeah, but these are examples of which are somehow similar to handover. But obviously the function is different. It's basically introducing the patient to a third person. Yeah, I think that is a good example. Something I wanted to mention, I mean, as Elmira said, yes, you focus on one part of the examination, or one skill, like explaining too much about symptoms and signs and that sort of thing, and then you miss the rest of the criteria. And that's again, that would probably be something we would talk about later in future webinars. Okay, back to you, Hannah, please.
Okay. Yes, so like Dr. Babak was saying, use that experience of if you worked in a hospital setting and you had to explain to another doctor that just come into another shift, or a nurse, what was happening. What are the key what is the key message, that the information that they need to know? And obviously, if there is anything underlying that prior to being admitted, that needs to be obviously mentioned, if it is related, I believe, to that particular illness, because these things are connected. I mean, doctors cannot prescribe something, treatment, if they don't know the history, the key things. So I'm assuming surgeries and medication that is related to the concern that the letter is about. I think these kind of are quite crucial things. Don't go into details writing word by word. This is not what it is about. The writing test is really about summarizing the information that you have in the notes. I'm, uh, I'm sure most of you probably have seen an example of the task, the written tasks, and there is usually dates with different notes from the doctor from the previous visit. So I want you to, when you look at those, to look at it and see in mentally what does the person who's going to read that letter, what do they really need to know in order to treat the patient? Because that's really what most of you or most of the candidates are missing, that they're not focusing on the important thing. Just let's just write as many things as possible. That's not about that, okay? The OET test is checking your ability to extract the information that is essential for the other person to treat the patient again. So yes, but we're going to cover those in the next 6 webinars that are coming up. And I'm just going to share with you the content of that. And Abdurrahman, you asked about the online writing course. Yes, that's what we are writing. The next 6 webinars are going to be about. Dr. Babak, do we write the letter as a first person?
That goes back to the professional language, and to we normally don't use first person, because we use passive voice usually. We say, for example, what has been done for the patient, rather than I did it or somebody else did it, if that's what you mean. So basically, yes, we tend to not write it in the first person. But having said that, in the last part, in closing the letter, I mean, it's basically at the beginning and in the end, in the purpose and in the closing paragraphs. So you actually do write, I am writing this, or I am requesting it, or I would appreciate you do something. And yes, so basically, yes and no. In the purpose paragraph and in the last paragraph, it is first person, and what you have done, what you would like to do, what you would expect to be done. And then, yeah, in the middle, in between, what is been done for the patient doesn't need to be first person, it's just passive voice. I hope that's answers your question.
I think it comes down to the fact that it is, well, you are the person who's writing the letter. So the first paragraph is you saying, I am requesting this, or I'm writing this person. The middle part, you don't know who was treating the patient. So when you don't know who is doing the action, then you need to use the passive voice.
Oh, we don't. Maybe it doesn't matter really. I mean, that's one of the uses of passive voice. Sometimes, it's not important who has done it. It's just important what has been done.
Yes, very much so. But I'm just saying, from the for people to kind of think about it, it's because you're not always sure who's doing it. So that's why passive voice is probably the best part to use it there. And the last one, the paragraph, like Dr. Babak was saying, use it in first person because you are the one who's requesting it. Okay? So does anybody else have any other questions so far? Yes, the online courses. Let me just share this here with you. Now, we are looking into organizing the 6 more live webinars where you can join in like today and actually ask questions. And you will be able also to learn more about the actual writing structure of each letter. Now, the first webinar is about explaining and going into details about the criteria. Dr. Babak was saying that the criteria has changed since September last year. And sometimes that is not knowing what you're gonna be marked on is the place where you don't get your marks. So what we're going to do is the first 4 webinars, we're going to go in depth in more details about each criteria that is within the OET writing exam. And the first one is the purpose, elaboration and roundup, and knowledge of healthcare system. Okay, just so you are aware of the things. Now, next one will be content, conciseness, and clarity. Again, this is where we were saying, choosing the keywords, summarizing the things, and being clear what you're trying to do. Now, the next webinar will be about genre and style, organization and layout, and that links to handover system. So we need to be choosing the right letter and the right vocabulary for each part of the, for each type of the letter. And the language, do we use formal language, objective and non-judgmental language? Remember, as a doctor, we're not allowed to be judgmental, okay? We might think it, but we're not allowed to say it. And that's very important in all this, in the writing and the speaking, especially test, because sometimes we want to say something, but we're not really supposed to. We need to be more diplomatic. I think doctors really, I notice as a patient, especially going into surgery these days, that the doctor is really a listener. The doctor listens and acknowledges what you say, and then in a nice, polite way, says to you that maybe there is a different way of doing it. The way you think might be right, but we would advise something else. So it's really about choosing the language that you're going to put in your letter. And then the 5th webinar will be practical part of writing the referral letter. And the last one will be about discharge and transfer letters. So you will, after this series of these 6 webinars, you will have a clear understanding of what you need to put in your test, in your writing test, to cover all the criteria that is there, so you don't miss out those important points. Because sometimes the one thing that you didn't know about, that you assumed you knew, is what is going to make you fail. And instead of paying for another test, why not invest a small amount of £15 for the 6 webinars we're going to offer, and learn from the doctor who's passed the test and prepared so many people how to do it properly. I mean, I'm not sure how many of you here have already taken the test and failed. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to for you to avoid retaking the test, because it is a very stressful situation, and all you in your mind you're thinking, where am I going wrong and whatnot. So our purpose here is to show you where the things that you need to focus on, so you understand, and when you go into the test you know exactly where to put your focus on. So the 6 webinars, they again going to be 1 hour once long. You will be able to ask the questions, and they're only £15. You will receive an email with the registration link, and there is also a registration link here. I will put it down in the chat in a moment, so you can log in and register. We have got a variety of payment methods. You can pay with PayPal, you can pay with WorldPay, which accepts credit and debit cards, or a bank transfer. or remittance. You can just send the money across. So if you've got any questions about that, please feel free to contact me via the group or the number, which is how I contacted you initially. Now, if some of you are already familiar with all the 6 parts that I mentioned before, and now you want to get to the stage where you want to have your letters checked, you want to do practical part, we offer in the OET writing letter checking service. And for 6 letters, it's £30. So if you're looking for that kind of service, feel free to contact us as well. And finally, I know that a lot of you looking to save on the OET test, and we are starting a group discount booking service. Just remember, the bigger the group, the more you save. The registration for the first group that we have now, we're going to start on the exams that will take place from July. I actually, anybody here that is looking to take a test past July? Anybody here? Can you put it in your chat, please? Or unmute yourselves? Okay, I've unmuted you here. Anybody is taking a test before July? Okay, so Pratibha, you taking the test before July? And Abdul Rahman, could you just confirm in the chat when is your test, please? Because when I've unmuted everybody, it was very noisy. So we have got quite a few people, and can I ask you to just type in the chat box when is your test? Okay, so Sabah, yours is on the 15th of July. Elmira is in June. Pratibha, you haven't applied yet. In July. Abdul Rahman, July. So a lot of people, have you already booked your tests then? Well, anyhow, we can, if you've got questions about the discount group bookings, please do let me know. Yes, this is my number to contact me, and this is the number in the group that I created. we also have got a Facebook group to which I sent you the link in the invitation, but I will resend it now. So please join the Facebook group, because there will be some, there is already quite a lot of resources in there. So you can check it out. I will be posting some more free resources for you to read through. So please use what is there available. And the group is for you to ask questions as well, okay? Either the WhatsApp group or the Facebook group. And I don't know, what do you guys use? Telegram or WhatsApp? What is the easiest? Maybe I will, I should have, yes. Well, just put it in the WhatsApp group, your comments, and which way of communicating with you is the best way. And also, we would love some feedback from you to just let me know, did you find today's webinar useful to you? Anybody? I'm looking at the chat and nobody's typing. Anyhow, Susan, thank you. Yes, anybody else? Almira, thank you. Pratibha, yes, okay. And also, if you know, if you have any friends who are looking to take the OET, please ask them to contact us, and we will be able to help you out with more. So just look out for the replay of today's webinar, and feel free to share it with people who might want to benefit from that. And right, I didn't mention most important part. The 6 webinars that I was referring to are going to be happening just on a weekly basis, okay? And yes, 6 webinars. So we are looking to start on the next Thursday. It's going to be on Thursdays at 3 p.m. UK time. You need to check your time zones. I'm not sure what it is. So 6 Thursdays, 7th, 14th, 21st and 28th of May, and 4th and the 11th of June. And to join them on those dates. Okay. Yes, there is some comment saying, thank you very much, Dr. Babak. Yes, someone, I encourage you to try to find a spot somewhere where the internet connection is good. You can always watch the replay of the webinar today. And yes, any final questions you may have? Anybody has got any questions?
Well, I'm glad everyone found it useful. I thought that and this is a good introduction to preparation for the tests. And yeah, hope to see you again soon.
Yes,
so I say goodbye.
Yeah, the purpose of the webinar was really to just give you an outline of the things that we want to go into depth, okay? Because there is more to know for you to know. Don't assume that what you've learned today is going to be enough. That's why we really encourage you to join our series of webinars. I'm sure that £15 is a very small investment into your future. So look forward to hearing from you. Any further questions, I'm here to answer via WhatsApp. And thanks very much, and take care, and good luck everyone in your exam taking. Bye-bye.